Hello everybody, welcome into another lesson. So today is part 2 of linear equations and their graphs. So last lesson we talked about the standard form of a linear equation. Today we're going to talk about the slope-intercept form of an equation, which again, this may seem like a review of algebra. I'm sure most, if not all of you, have seen this before. Your slope-intercept form is in the form of the equation y equals mx plus b. The y always has a coefficient of 1 and nothing else. Positive 1 and nothing else when it's in slope-intercept form. That's always on the left side of the equation. On the right, that m is the slope. So it's the slope of the line times the x term. Then that b, that's your y-intercept. So the slope-intercept form is also pretty easy to work with. You literally have it right in front of you, your slope and your y-intercept. So we're going to do a few examples here. And of course the idea of the slope-intercept is you plot your y-intercept and then you use the slope to find one more point, plot that point, and then draw a line through those 2 points. So slope-intercept's also pretty simple. Now, let's see here. So we have the equation y equals 2x minus 3. Oh, one thing I want to point out before we go further, if you have y equals mx plus b, remember from algebra we can substitute f of x in for y. Whenever you have a linear function, it's always in slope-intercept form. Always. So if this were f of x equals 2x minus 3, just know that this is in slope-intercept form. That's especially going to come in handy when we get into algebra 2. So just keep that in mind. Okay. But anyway, we have the equation y equals 2x minus 3. So first thing you want to do whenever you have an equation in this form is find your slope. Well, the slope is always the coefficient of the x term. Your slope is 2. Slope is 2. So m equals 2. That's real easy, right? Now, if you have a whole number for your slope, do yourself a favor. Put a denominator of 1. There's a reason I'm saying this. It's going to come into play in a second. Now, what would be the y-intercept? The y-intercept would be negative 3. So the b equals negative 3, so your y-intercept would be at 0, negative 3. So you have your slope, you have your y-intercept. So let's plot the y-intercept here, which is at 0, negative 3. Okay, so we've plotted the y-intercept. Now, this is where I said put that denominator of 1 in your slope. You're going to see why. Your slope is what? It's rise over run. If we remember what the slope is, it's the change in y over the change in x. So to find an additional point and plot it, you're going to want to, in this case, your slope is 2 over 1, right? So from 0, negative 3, you're going to go up 2, which would put you at 0, negative 1. And then you'll go over 1, which will put you at 1, negative 1. So you plot that point at 1, negative 1. Now that you got your 2 points, just connect the dots and draw a line through them. And there's the graph of y equals 2x minus 3. Now, this form is particularly useful if you're going to get a fractional x-intercept. Yes, you can convert this to standard form. It's easy to do, which we're actually going to do a few examples of that today. But using the y-intercept and the slope saves you from having to solve for the x-intercept and having to do some algebra. So that's where that comes in handy. And let's see. All right. Let's just reconnect the dots here, or let's just reconnect my coordinate plane. I would rather have the coordinate plane altogether. Okay. What is our next equation here? A little bit different, but sort of similar, but this time we're given y equals 2x plus 3. So we have the equation in slope-intercept form of y equals 2x plus 3. Well, first things first, let's find our slope. What is the slope? It's the coefficient of the x term. Your slope is equal to 2. And as I said, if you get a whole number for your slope, put a denominator of 1, because it's going to help you find your second point. Then what is your y-intercept? It's that positive 3. B equals 3, so your y-intercept is at 0, 3. Okay, so now that we've found the y-intercept and the slope, we could start plotting points. First, start with your y-intercept of 0, 3, which would be right there. Now your slope, of course, rise over run, you're going to go up 2, so that would put you at 0, 5. Over 1, that would put you at the point 1, 5. So there are your 2 points. Connect them. Then draw your graph. So that's roughly what the graph of y equals 2x plus 3 would look like. It's not entirely accurate because my actual x-intercept would be negative 3/2, 0, but it's roughly what it looks like. Again, I don't have the best drawing skills, but I sure do try. Okay, hold on. There we go. What is the next one? This will be real easy. Y equals negative 4x. Okay. We just have the general equation y equals negative 4x. So, again, start out with your slope. What is your slope? Your slope, of course, m, that's the coefficient of the x term. Your slope is negative 4. But again, you have a whole number. Do yourself well, you have an integer, which is a negative whole number in this case. So put a denominator of 1. Now, what is your y-intercept? It's 0. Your y-intercept is 0, so the y-intercept is actually at the origin. It's at 0, 0. Okay, so now that we know our y-intercept and our slope, let's go ahead and plot these points. So 0, 0 is your y-intercept, right at the origin. Now, let's see. Your slope is negative 4 over 1, which means it actually falls 4, so you go down to negative 4, and then over 1, so you would be at the point 1, negative 4. So then you've plotted your points. Go ahead and connect the dots. And that's roughly what y equals negative 4x would look like when it's graphed. 3 more with graphing, and then we're just going to do some equations, which will make stuff a little bit easier for you. All right. What's next here? Good one. Y equals 3/4 x plus 1. So we have the equation y equals 3/4 x plus 1. So first, identify your slope. Your slope is the coefficient of the x term. So that would be 3/4. Your slope is 3/4. Now, what is the y-intercept? It's that positive 1. So your b is 1, your y-intercept, so your y-intercept is at the point 0, 1. So now we know the y-intercept and our slope. Let's go ahead and plot points. So start at 0, 1. Your y-intercept. Now your slope is 3/4. So what's going to happen is you're going to rise 3, which would put you at, let's see, 1, 2, 3. That puts you at 0, 4. And then go over 4. That will put you at the point 4, 4. Which would be right about there. There we go. Now that you've plotted points, let's graph the line. And that's roughly what y equals 3/4 x plus 1 would look like. There we go. There we go. All right. 2 more with graphing. Okay, so let's see. Y equals -2/3 x minus 4. So we have the equation y equals -2/3 x minus 4. So go ahead first, identify your slope, which would be -2/3, since that's the coefficient of your x term. Now, what is your y-intercept? That's going to be -4, so you have the y-intercept itself would be at 0, -4. So now we know the slope and the y-intercept. Let's go ahead and plot the points. Here's your y-intercept of 0, -4. Now your slope, you're actually, so if it's -2/3, that means you fall down 2, which would put you at 0, 6. Then go over to the right 3, that would put you at 3, -6 for your next point. So plot that point, and then now you just connect the dots, and you'll get some lovely graph. There you go. So that's about roughly what y equals -2/3 x minus 4 looks like. All right, should just be one more with graphing, and then we just got some equations. All right, plot that. There we go. All right, what about the graphing part? So we have the equation y equals 5/3 x minus 2. So you're given y equals 5/3 x minus 2. Well, again, start out with your slope, which is the coefficient of the x term. Your slope would be 5/3. Now, what is the y-intercept, the b term? That's -2. So your y-intercept would occur at 0, -2. Alright, so now that you know both of those, plot your y-intercept first, which would be at 0, -2. Now, using the slope, find a second point. So from 0, -2, if we go up 5 units, because it's rise over run, that's going to put you at 0, 3. Then you go over 3, that would put you at 3, 3. So the secondary point would be 3, 3. So you'll plot the points and connect them. And that's roughly what the graph of y equals 5/3 x minus 2 would look like. All right. Now we're done with the graphing for the lesson. Now it's just going to get a little bit easier. So I think you all get how to graph in slope-intercept form. All right. So here's what we're about to do next. So let me see here. I had it. All right, here we go. So we're going to now be given the general form of an equation. So you have 4x plus y equals 10, the standard form of an equation. Our goal is to find the slope and y-intercept. To find the slope and y-intercept, what do we need to do? We need to solve for y, don't we? We need to get y by itself on the left side. So if I do that, to get y by itself, I subtract 4x from both sides, right? Which would give me y equals -4x plus 10. Now that I've converted from standard form into slope-intercept form, now I can easily identify the slope. The slope would be -4, and then the y-intercept would be b equals +10. So my slope is -4, my y-intercept would be at 0, 10. Okay, and now, of course, let's say, hypothetically, I was asked to convert from slope-intercept form into standard form, work backwards. You want to keep your constant on the right side and have your x and y terms on the left-hand side. And a key also with putting it back into standard form, your coefficients on your x and y terms should be integers. They should never be decimals or fractions. They should just be integers. So if I want to convert back, I'm just going to add 4x to both sides. I would end up having 4x plus y equals 10. That would put it back into standard form. So that's how you do that. I got like 5 more examples here of that. Then we'll be done with the lesson. Okay, let's say I have 2x minus y equals 5. So I'm given 2x minus y equals 5. Well, I want to convert from standard form. In order to find the slope and y-intercept, I need to convert this from standard form into slope-intercept form. Again, the idea of slope-intercept form is you get y by itself on one side and then the x and constant terms by itself on the other side. if I just move the y over to the right side, I could write this as y equals, of course, it would be y plus 5 equals 2x. Subtract 5 from the other side. This would just turn into y equals 2x minus 5, right? It would be the same thing. And then now we have this in slope-intercept form where we can easily identify both. The slope, of course, would equal 2, since that's the coefficient of your x term. The y-intercept would be negative 5. B equals negative 5, so your y-intercept would occur at negative 5. So you have a slope of 2, and then a y-intercept at 0, negative 5. And then if we wanted to convert this back into standard form, get your x and y terms on one side, you would end up having 2x minus y equals 5. So it's just making sure you have your x and y terms on one side, your constant term on another, with your coefficients for the x and y terms being integers. All right, 4 more examples here. Alright, so we have the general form of an equation 5x minus 2y equals 10. So we are given 5x minus 2y equals 10 in general form. We want to find the slope and y-intercept form of this line, right? Okay, well, we need to solve for y and get the coefficient on the y term on one side of the equation to be 1. First thing I would do is move your 2y over and then move the 10 over. So if you do that, you'll get 2y on one side of the equation would be equal to 5x minus 10, right? Okay, we're almost there, but the coefficient on the y term needs to be 1 in order for it to be in slope-intercept form. So you just divide everything by 2. If you do that, you'll get y equals 5 halves x minus 5. Now we have the equation in slope-intercept form, where we can easily identify the slope to be 5 halves, right? The b term is negative 5, meaning your y-intercept would occur at 0, negative 5. Okay, so we found it. We found the slope and y-intercept by putting this equation from standard form into slope-intercept form. Now, what if you were asked to convert this from slope-intercept form back into general form or standard form? Well, let's take a look at this equation here. What is general form? Ultimately, you want to get from this back to this, right? Because you want to have your x and y terms on the left side, your constant terms on the right. So you're going to subtract y from both sides. What you would end up with to start with is 5 halves x minus y, then move the 5 over to the other side, would equal 5. Well, in order for it to be back in standard form, we can't have a fraction or a decimal for a coefficient on the x or y terms. So now multiply everything by 2 to get rid of the fraction. You would have 5x minus 2y equals 10. So what do you know? You're back in standard form. Alright. I have 3 more examples, then we are done. Okay, let's say we have the equation in standard form 3x plus 4y equals 12. So we have 3x plus 4y equals 12. Well, we want to convert this from standard form into slope-intercept form because the goal is to find your slope and y-intercept. So get the y term by itself on one side. If you do that, you'll end up with 4y equals negative 3x plus 12. Now it's almost in slope-intercept form, but not quite there, because the coefficient on the y term should be 1. So that means you divide everything by 4, you would get y equals negative 3/4 x plus 3. Now you've just converted into slope-intercept form, which now you can find the slope to be negative 3/4. So that's easy. The slope is negative 3/4. And then the b term is 3, meaning your y-intercept would occur at 0, 3. So there's your y-intercept being 0, 3. Now, if you were asked to convert this back into standard form, you're going to get your x and y terms together on one side, keep your constant on the other. This would look like 3/4 x plus y equals 3, which again, we don't want a fractional coefficient on your x or y terms, so multiply everything by 4, you would get 3x plus 4y equals 12. You're back to where you started then. All right, 2 more problems. All right. The very next one, so we have x minus 4y equals 6. So we're given x minus 4y equals 6. Well, it's in standard form. The goal is to find the slope and y-intercept. In order to do that, we have to convert to slope-intercept form. So get the y term by itself on one side, and then the x and the constant term by itself on another. So if we start converting, this would look like 4y equals x minus 6. We're almost there, but we need to get the coefficient of the y term to be 1. Divide everything by 4, you would get y equals 1/4 x minus 6 over 4. 6 over 4 is going to be 3/2. So really, it would be in slope-intercept form, y equals 1/4 x minus 3/2. Now we can easily identify the slope and y-intercept. The slope would be 1/4. So that was easy. The y-intercept, your b term, of course, is negative 3/2, which means your y-intercept itself would be at 0, negative 3/2, which would be negative 1/2. So there's your y-intercept. Now if you were asked to convert this back to general form, again, get your x and y terms together on one side. So this would look like 1/4 x minus y would equal, then move the constant term to the other, would equal positive 3/2. So this will look like 1/4 x minus y equals 3/2, and then you don't want a fractional coefficient. You can have a fractional constant on the right side still, that can happen to be in slope-intercept form, but you can't have fractional coefficients of your x or y terms. So multiply everything by 4, you would end up getting x minus 4y equals 4 times 3/2 would be 6. And what do you know? You're back where you started. One more problem, then we're done. All right. We have here, let's see, 4x plus 3y is equal to 8. So we have 4x plus 3y equals 8. We want to find the slope and y-intercept. Well, Obviously then we need to convert from general form to slope-intercept form. So get the y term by itself on one side to start. That would look like 3y equals negative 4x plus 8. Well, then we want the coefficient of the y term to be 1, so divide everything by 3. You would get y equals negative 4/3 x plus 8/3. So that would turn this equation into slope-intercept form. Now we can find the slope and y-intercept. The slope would be negative 4/3. Now the b term is 8/3, meaning that you have a y-intercept at 0 8/3, or 0 2 2/3, however you want to look at it. So we found the slope and y-intercept. Now let's say you want to convert this equation back into general form. Again, get your x and y terms together on one side, keep the constant on the other. To start, that would look like 4/3 x plus y equals 8/3. And then to get rid of the fraction for your coefficient on the x, just multiply everything by 3. You would get 4x plus 3y equals 8. So that's how you would convert back to standard form. So that's really it for this lesson. Next lesson will be a short lesson on systems of equations and their graphs. So we are going to do a little bit of systems of equations and their graphs. So I hope everybody has a great day. Take care.